Greetings, friends. The Russian occupiers who constantly talk about how they want peace continue to carry out terrorist air attacks against Ukraine. But last night, Ukrainian drones also flew towards so-called Russia.
And this, it seems, is a drone. This looks more like that one. Another one. A third one. Seventh. That's the third one flying after it. My God, how many of them are there?
A massive drone attack, probably already the fourth one, took place at the Energia facility in the Lipetsk region, in the city of Yelets. Let me remind you, they manufacture various components for Russian drones there, including batteries. The city of Voronezh also came under attack, but it wasn't Ukrainian drones that attacked it. It was the Russian air defense system which struck a residential building, resulting in 18 occupiers being injured. One of them is in a coma, and that's wonderful. Meanwhile, in Yelabuga, the very place where the Iranian-Russian Shahed or Geran drones are manufactured, all public events have now been cancelled because those damned Ukrainians keep attacking Yelabuga from time to time for no reason at all.
Dear residents of Yelabuga, we're all going through difficult times. Almost every day, attempts by unmanned aerial vehicles to enter the district are being recorded. The enemy is trying to disrupt the operation of important industrial facilities and create an atmosphere of anxiety among the population.
But of course, the main news from the past day are the new statements by Donald Trump regarding the Russian-Ukrainian war and the supply of weapons to Ukraine.
We are very dissatisfied with Russia.
And the Russians came with this historian who explained the history of Russia starting from the year 1250.
America will sell weapons to Europe for Ukraine. For now, we don't know exactly in what quantities. Let's talk about this in more detail. But I do know what kind of support you are providing to the Ukrainian military, and that's 3,000 FPV drones every week. Take a look at this beauty.
Greetings, friends. I'm Sergei Sternenko, and today I want to do and show you something unusual. As a foundation, we supply drones to the front on a daily basis, but we're not an ordinary foundation because we don't have a warehouse at all. We make direct deliveries from suppliers to units so that our soldiers receive assistance as quickly as possible and on a daily basis. But today you'll see something we usually don't show. We've decided to show you what a week's worth of drone deliveries from the Sternenko Community Charity Foundation looks like. Right here you can see 3,000 FPV kamikaze drones. 3,000 drones are sent to the front every week and become the death of Russian occupiers. And this is thanks to you. Thanks to the fact that you help constantly every single day. We probably won't be doing photo shoots like this anymore unless we start buying, say, 5,000 a week. Again, that's thanks to you. But for now, just take a look at this scale. It's an enormous amount. I don't know what you see here, but personally I see a lot of dead Russians. And to make absolutely sure there are even more dead Russians, please go ahead and contribute to the current user-rise efforts right now at this very moment. All the details, as always, are in the description of this video.
If you are a representative of Ukrainian business and want to help protect Ukraine's skies from Shaheds, I urge you to contact us via our email, which is also listed in the description of this video, and help us purchase more interceptors that have already proven their effectiveness. And still, only 50% of those who watch my videos are subscribed to the channel. And that's not right, it needs to be fixed. Be sure to subscribe right now. And you can also leave a comment under the video. Yesterday, the American president finally made his very important, fateful and sensationally beautiful statement regarding the Russian-Ukrainian war. And to put it mildly, it wasn't nearly as big as it had been announced. But Trump did finally realize that Vladimir Putin is fooling him.
I often, talk to him about ending this matter, and I always hang up and think, well, that was a pleasant conversation. And then missiles are launched at Kyiv or some other city, and I say, that's strange. And after this happens 3 or 4 times, you say the conversation means nothing.
But on the bright side, now you and I know that Melania Trump, that is his wife, the First Lady, is actually for Ukraine.
Sometimes I would come home and say, the First Lady, I had a wonderful conversation with Volodymyr. I think we've resolved everything. And then one day she said to me, wow, that's strange because they just bombed a retirement home.
Well, now let's get to the specifics. Trump promises that Ukraine will supposedly receive as many as 17 Patriots in the near future. They are supposed to be provided by some other country or countries, and the United States will later supply those countries with Patriots in return.
Because we have one country that is preparing to send 17 Patriots. They won't need them. So we will arrange for these 17, or at least a significant portion of them, to be sent to the battlefield.
And it's very difficult to say exactly what Trump meant when he talked about 17 Patriots. Did he mean 17 systems, 17 batteries, or maybe he was referring to 17 launchers or even 17 missiles? Who knows? The Pentagon can't comment on it either. According to American media, the United States intends to sell weapons to European countries worth about $10 billion in the near future, and then these weapons are supposed to go to Ukraine.
But we have indeed made a significant deal where we will promptly send them necessary weapons, and they will certainly pay for them in full. We, the United States, we will not be paying.
What kind of weapons are these exactly? That's an interesting question. Apart from 17 Patriots or 17 Patriot missiles, American media also claimed that the United States could sell short-range missiles, howitzers, and medium-range air-to-air missiles to NATO members who would then transfer them to Ukraine. There are also rumors that Ukraine might receive AGM-158 or JASSM cruise missiles. By the way, these were mentioned back when Biden was president. This is a subsonic low-observable cruise missile weighing 1,000 kilograms, of which 450 kilograms is the warhead. The range varies depending on the version. 370 kilometers, 925 kilometers, 1,900 and 930 kilometers. Ukraine could also launch such missiles from F-16 aircraft, but for now this remains just a rumor, and until there are strikes with these missiles, I won't believe that we've received them. There is also an even bigger rumor coming from the American media. Supposedly, Trump wanted to provide Ukraine with even Tomahawk cruise missiles so that Ukrainians could strike Moscow. Trump asked Zelensky why he wouldn't strike Moscow. "We can if you give us the weapons," Zelensky replied. Trump said that Ukraine needs to put more pressure on Putin, not just on Moscow, but also on St. Petersburg. We've already discussed the Tomahawks with you more than once. The main problem is that these cruise missiles are sea-based missiles. In other words, Ukraine simply wouldn't have anything to launch them from. There is also a version for ground-based launchers, but there are literally only a handful of these launchers. So the granting remains just granting. We'll see how it works out in practice. For now, America is making a lot of promises. The question is what it will actually do.
Of course, we meticulously craft the very best weapons in the entire world. Everyone truly desires them, and we will absolutely prioritize all deliveries to Ukraine.
Nothing was said yesterday about the frozen Russian assets, and there will be no sanctions against the so-called Russian Federation at this time. Trump has given Vladimir Putin yet another new deadline. Now it's 50 days, that is until September 2nd.
But we are very, very dissatisfied with them and will impose very strict tariffs if we don't reach an agreement within 50 days. Tariffs at the level of 100%. You could call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means?
We know what that means. It means that there's no point in relying on any deadlines Trump announces, because today it's 50 days. Then those 50 days will pass and Trump might just forget he ever said that, or he might even start putting more pressure on the so-called Russian Federation much earlier, maybe in just 24 hours or in 2 weeks.
I'll end this war between those two countries in 24 hours. It won't even take that long. 2 weeks or less.
Or he might not do anything at all. It's hard to assess what Trump said yesterday, because in terms of its impact on the Russian-Ukrainian war, it won't have any particularly significant effect. But if you look at it in comparison, Trump's rhetoric from the time he became president again has changed significantly in favor of Ukraine. And that should be noted. The reaction from the Russian side was entirely predictable. Medvedev once again publicly mocked Trump and all his statements, while for Russian propagandists, sometimes it's not scary at all and other times it's very frightening.
The question arises, what does Trump actually want? Well, honestly, it's absolutely not scary, no matter what they say.
And in general, this is also an extremely, extremely unpleasant surprise for us.
The biggest mental issues from this situation have appeared in Solovyov, who now seems to have a split personality.
What, Trump isn't ours? He was never ours. He was always his own man. In fact, what Trump is doing is very much to our advantage. Trump is not ours. Trump is not a peacemaker.
And then, as always, we get the usual stories about how tomorrow Solovyov will destroy Europe and ruin the United States with his tongue.
For us, targets on European territory are legitimate. So what? Should we launch a retaliatory strike against America and American forces?
The main question is, what happens next? Over the next probably 50 days, Ukraine will likely be receiving American weapons paid for by our European partners. And for us, that's not a bad thing. And even if we get the means to strike Moscow and actually do it, the Russians will swallow it.
So what happens next? Will they strike Moscow? A strike on St. Petersburg? And what will we say? Yeah, it's a tough situation, really tough.
At the same time, insufficient pressure from the American president on Vladimir Putin will lead to the Russians continuing to try to buy time and wage war against Ukraine, because their main goal, namely the capture of Ukraine, has not changed.
Well, as I understand it, we're ready to make a deal within 3 days, provided that Ukraine becomes part of Russia.
In such a situation, we, as before, don't really count on America or Europe. Although some countries have done quite a lot for Ukraine, we rely on ourselves and continue to support our military, which, thanks to you, received another 330 new FPVs in the past day. Glory to the heroes. Your support is of strategic importance to our military. Your help saves many lives. Don't stop and keep supporting the security and defense forces of Ukraine.